All right, Marcus, welcome to the show. It is Tuesday. It's Try New Things. What have you tried new recently?
Uh, Trying new things. I would say me trying something new. Actually, I love guacamole. So that was the new thing that I tried, and I actually love it now. So
Okay, I
I
like that.
don't
How
know
do
if you're
you
talking about like food. This was my first time ever trying it. So I was just
Yeah.
I was happy about that. It's actually pretty good. Didn't even realize it was good.
Did you just have it with chips or did you have it on something?
First, I had it with chips, and then I had it like on some food, and I was like, "Yeah, this is it. This is
Yeah.
this is
Yeah,
it."
comes to
Yep.
the light.
Yeah. It was
That is
good. It
awesome.
was
I
good.
love guac too.
It was
I
good.
love That's real
Yep.
good. I love guac. I try to get fancy. Like if you go to Uncle Julio's, you be
Hmm.
like, "Can I have table side guac? I want my table side."
Yeah, I can eat it plain too. I can eat it plain, like just with like you said with chips. I think it's that's
Mhm.
that's good like that. So
All
yeah,
right,
something new. That's what I would say.
that's what's up. It took me a long time to really like try it because I was like, "Oh, that don't look too good."
Yeah, it looked nasty, it just looked mushy. Just like
Mhm.
I'll pass.
All right, well that's good. Continue to try new things.
Yep.
All right, so Marcus, again, thank you for being on the show today. I mean, now I'm a super fan of yours. I was a fan, but now I'm a super fan because now I know you like guac.
Man, appreciate
See, so you added a little guac to your resume, so I like that. But I want to start from the beginning. Myself, having both of my children are student. Well, my daughter was a student athlete; she was a track athlete, but my son is a current student athlete, and I definitely want to get your perspective. And I have to say thank you to CJ Cole, my baby,
it. Yeah.
for helping me with these questions because
Hey, I appreciate you, my guy.
yeah, because I was looking at it from a mother standpoint. I was looking at it from trying to interview, and he really had to break it down to me. He edited something, gave me some additions. So I'm thankful and I'm glad to talk to you today because I'm prepared.
Hey, that's the
So
best
that's
way. That's the best way to be.
hmm so that's dope. So let's start at the beginning. How old were you when you started playing football?
I was actually 5 years old when I started playing. Been playing. Still a free agent right now, trying to get on the roster. But um, since I was 5, man, I've been playing football. I've been playing football for a long time. All the way up until I would say September of 2018. I have been playing every fall since I was 5, and I hadn't quit, stopped, no nothing since I was 5 years old. So
Wow. Wow, that's awesome. And when my son started football, he was considered, quotes, a late starter because he started at 7.
yeah, that's still early. I would say that's still like because I know a lot of people now they want their kids if they do play football to kind of like start like later on, like middle school maybe.
Mm-mm, it's
And
too late. It's too
yeah,
late. It's too late.
I mean, if you teach him the proper techniques and everything like that, depending on if he plays defense or offense, I mean, he should be fine. But that's the number one thing I would say in sports, like being young, like you have to have the coaches that teach the correct technique, so you limit the head injuries and things of that nature. See, I played quarterback when I was young, so I really kept myself away from a lot of head injuries because I mean I was a quarterback. Quarterbacks really barely get touched like that. So
Mhm. Well, yeah, because see, when my son started, he was 7, and he joined a team that have never lost. So they haven't lost in 2 years. And so there was one game where we got scored on.
hmm
And they have been scored on in 2 years. So they never lost, they never got scored on. So then we get to the parents' meeting and everybody's like in an uproar. So I look at then my husband, my ex-husband now, but I look at him like, yo, did we win or
right.
did we lose? And so it was crazy.
Yeah.
We got scored on, and it was like the parents were like crazy. And this was our first year, so we were like, what?
Yeah.
So we didn't
Yeah.
know. And then, these group of kids, obviously, they're still friends to this day. One of them goes to UNLV.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is at Auburn. One of them is at Ball State.
Auburn is right
My son
around
is at
my
US
backyard.
State. So they all, so they
Yeah,
all
no
have,
problem.
been great, but started at that young. So I definitely wanted to ask that, like, how old? I mean, and you know what? I thought about it too. This was after the fact. I'm like, you're a
Mm-hmm.
girl dad.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel about your daughter possibly playing sports?
I definitely want her to play sports because I feel like sports can translate to the real world in a lot of ways, can teach you how to be a great team person, can teach you valuable lessons, can you losing, it's you're gonna have some losing battles in sports no matter if it's actually in the game or it's actually you losing the game. So learning how to deal with that, right? Because now you get older and you lose in life. You can kind of like have a better way to deal with that rather than looking at it like like it's tearing yourself down. And I feel like I really would love for her to play sports. But the thing about her is that her mom is very, very smart. Her mom is, my wife. She went to an Ivy League school. She, graduated at the top of her class in high school. She was a valedictorian. So when I see my daughter, I see she's very, very smart as well. So, but I'm looking at her like, man, she could do both. She could play sports and she could. So I'm praying and hoping because, with us, with everything that's going on right now, she can't really do as much as we would want her to do. Because I would have her in swimming right now. I would have her in, a lot of stuff. But we have to figure out how to get all her energy out because we have to go outside, let her take a walk. We're thinking about getting a playground in the backyard. So I really definitely would love for her to play sports if she wants to.
Okay, that's good. And it makes me think about when we first started. I mean, our my son is the youngest. I'm saying my baby. I mean, he is 21 years old. Let me clarify.
Hey, my mom still do the same thing. I'm 28 and she like you still my baby.
Yes, yes. So my sugar is 21. And so when he started, one of the concerns we were concerned about, the reason why we didn't do it at 5, we were afraid of concussions. Obviously, like I said, this team, they had top of the line equipment, Revo Speed helmets. They had a doctor on the sidelines. They had, all the things in play that if something was to happen, they would be prepared. So that gave us a cushion. But I wanted to ask you, have you ever had a concussion?
Yeah, I've had probably four
Mm,
four concussions in my career though. I know
okay.
guys that had over 20, right?
Hmm.
So it's about a lot of the time. Does your son play defense or offense?
He plays offense. He's running back.
All right. So even with running backs, um, they teach running backs to when they get in the hole and they're meeting somebody, they teach them to lower their shoulder, but not their head. So typically, if you lower your shoulder, you're using your pads rather than your helmet. So your helmet is only there to protect your face. You're not supposed to use your helmet because that's considered like spearing or using it's a weapon,
Yeah.
right? And you see that in a game a lot that some guys use their helmet to hit rather than using their pads. So I've had 4 concussions, but those concussions, uh, I had 2 in college, and I remember when I was a sophomore, I got hit in the face, like head-on collision, um, and I was concussed, like dazed. And then when I got to the NFL, I was playing with Seattle at the time, and we were playing the Redskins. And I was running down the line, and the running back like slipped under, and my teammate was like right there, and we end up like hitting each other, right? So it was like a friendly fire, but I was concussed after that. But
Yeah.
they don't play around with that, obviously, with the whole concussion thing. But I've known guys that have had more concussions that just the thing about it is if you feel like you have a concussion, say something. A lot of guys, they just stay out there and they don't even know what's going on, you know. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say. But it's a way to get around concussions. You just have to teach the proper technique. That's it.
Yeah. So that was one of my main things. I think my son, if I'm accurate, he's had two.
Hmm.
One, and I feel like at that age too, this was in sort of middle school ball. He always played up, so he was sort of, he was in fifth grade. He was playing with the
Right.
sixth grade. He was off ninth, eighth grade. Then playing. So he's always playing up. So that was always one of the concerns. I have a little nephew, and that's
Right.
one of my concerns. He's like, I don't know about football because of the concussions, because of the research that has been brought behind it.
Hmm.
Different NFL players, the dementia, the long
Right.
lasting effects. So, do you feel worried about that? I mean, and 4 is very low. I mean, when you said single digits, I was actually surprised to hear that.
Well, also I haven't. I only been when I got to college. That's when I switched to defense. I had been playing quarterback pretty much my whole life until I got to college. So I kind of got away from that, which it 4 is low, but I think a lot of the guys that I played with, like a Cam Chancellor or a uh, Cliff Averill. I know your son probably know who I'm
You're
talking about. You know what I'm saying?
gonna enjoy
So
this. He's gonna give me a lot of listens on this one, a lot of plays.
right, yeah. So I think I just think that a lot of times it's not being said. Like it could be like a small concussion, right? And you could be in the middle of a game and guys don't want to come out the game. They like, man, I'm gonna just shake it off. But I remember my last concussion, I was very emotional. Like,
Mm,
very emotional. Like when I was at home, my mom was there, I was hugging her, crying. And I'm like, what am I crying for?
hmm.
And that's just like some of the symptoms. And I was only out for a week, of course, but it's concussions are real for all you parents. And I think if you do decide to let your kids play, your son play, make sure they know the risk and also know the proper technique and how to use their equipment. Because you don't want, especially at a young age, you don't want kids getting concussions at a young age. That's just too young.
Yeah.
Brain is not fully developed.
hmm Yeah, those are some good points. I remember one in high school, a young man on my son's team. He got a concussion. He was out, and I
Mhm.
like how they had the protocols. Like they had to go back to the baseline testing and things like that. So I know this may sound scary to some parents, but it is a process that you can work through. Like I said, if I can remember correctly, my son. I know one very bad episode, but my son I
Mhm.
have had two. Um, but one of his teammates was out, did the baseline test. He couldn't get back to it. And so one day he was driving with his mom and like his vision was blurry. And he was like,
Right.
Mom, like he really said, Mom, I gotta pull over. I can't drive. Like it was his vision, was distorted. So that he spoke up. And that's why I like what you do now, even though you're a professional player. You talk about mental health and how guys are feeling, because this is a very testosterone driven uh sport. Not that any others are, but this is very a macho masculine. I always used to say like they need a mom on the field, like to say wink once if you okay, or wink twice
Right.
you need to get pulled out because I'm going, and I've said that and my brothers are like, no, we don't need no mamas down there. And I was like, they need one mom that's gonna, say. But how do you feel about the college athletes, going back this season, this in the fall? How do you, ooh,
With what's going on?
yeah, with everything going on?
Ah, that's a good question. If they, I'm not sure like what protocols that they have, and I've seen and it's been in the media that guys have tested positive and they been sent home and people have been quarantined and things of that nature. So if they were taking more of like the NFL, NBA approach, then I think it would be okay. But at the same time, with football, you're touching each other like every play. So I'm not sure like how do we stay away from the only way you can stay away from COVID is to like have them in a bubble. They can't go anywhere. And if they do fly to another city, they're staying there. They can't go anywhere even when they get to the city. And the same thing goes for the home team. That's the only way you can keep it in house and it can't be any fans. That's the only way I see it. If you look at the NBA and you watch NBA games and how they have it set up and how they get tested all the time and how they're wearing masks and how they don't have fans there at all. They have like these fake fans that are in the stands and it's fake music, which is still it's not the same, but it gives you that kind of gives you that same like if you're a sports fan, it gives you that same feeling. And I think that, other leagues should take the same approach if they want sports to be played. And they have to think of the safety of the players, regardless of his college or the pros. And I just think that sometimes go by the wayside. Like, they'll be all right, rather than like, nah, we gotta protect our team.
Yeah, and I just feel like it's a lot of pressure. I mean, because my son is like, if people want to play, they're gonna come. So I'm like, I know
Exactly.
everybody wants to play. They all want to play. But can you even imagine playing without any fans? Can you imagine that?
That is probably the hardest thing to imagine is playing without fans. Because that's what gets you hyped. That's what I mean. I played in front of thousands of fans, and it just when you walk out there, it's just like, wow,
Yeah, the
like, this is
energy.
different. This is some crazy energy, and it gets you pumped and it gets you ready for the game. And like, especially if you're an offensive guy like your son, he a running back. He skirt through the whole whoop, and he gone. You gonna hear the crowd like yelling while you go score a touchdown. I think that's a great feeling.
Yeah. So I mean, in a way, and I guess this is only from a mom's perspective. I don't want him to go back. This is his senior year. I'm like, do
Will
online,
it?
do whatever, but I don't want him to go back because I just feel like that's a lot to put on the athletes. You're putting their health, but you're putting the weight of the university because obviously this is a business.
Right.
We learned that with him being recruited and going to college, that this is a business now. It is slightly fun, but it's more so a business. And I just feel like that's a lot of weight to put on young adults that, you know, basically you got the university on your back, you got the fans, you got the alumni, because I'm sad I'm missing homecoming. I don't know if you missed
Yeah.
HBCU homecoming, but it is a celebration.
Yeah. I don't. It's sometimes they. Uh, sometimes I think they just don't care about the well-being of the kids. Sometimes.
Yeah, I mean,
And
and that's a whole nother podcast. This whole NCAA, that's a whole nother podcast. I ain't gonna get in my mom bag on that, but
I just remember people having my jersey on at the game. I couldn't get nothing for it.
yeah. So how do you feel about that? How do you feel about athletes being compensated?
Oh man, they should be. Athletes should be compensated because if you got an athlete that is bringing revenue into the building, I mean, or into the NCAA or to that school, then you're making money off the likeness of him,
Mhm.
right? So he should be compensated for that. And what they try to do is they try to keep it like amateur, like you're a college student,
Yep.
but
The whole
you
student
get in
athlete.
trouble. They you get in trouble for if, oh, hey, somebody outside of the family, like maybe somebody that's like a third cousin, right? And they decide to like, man, I want to take you out to lunch. Like, let's go eat here. Boom, you go eat there. You get in trouble for that. You get suspended for somebody paying for you to get something to eat. Well, if you look at college students, especially athletes, they're not. It's not like they're bringing in like any source of income. So they have to literally like budget what they have, and it's really not. It's more now. They're starting to like be more lenient and give more money to the athletes, but the athletes really bring a lot of money into those universities, and I am all for top athletes going to HBCUs.
I was gonna ask that. And and I talked to my son about this and he shared his opinion. I'm not gonna share his opinion, but he is at HBCU. But one of the things that we talked about are the conditions because let's just say at Auburn University and a Morehouse, the conditions are totally different. So that was one of the things. And then, they do get a slight of a stipend. So just say the Morehouse and then the Auburn, one kid at Auburn used his stipend for his car note.
Yeah, it is different. It is
So
different,
that
but
is
it
that is
can change.
appealing to the student athlete when you ultimately, I mean, as parents, we have a lot of influence. The coaches, obviously, when they're being heavily recruited, they see a lot of stuff, they get a lot of promises, but ultimately, it's their decision,
Right.
And so they look at TV time. They look at like my son plays on like ESPN3. Like I got to get an app to get that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
why do you think it's okay for them, the top athletes? What would be appealing?
Well, for them, it's not going to be the first athlete that does it, which I think the one committed to Howard, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But they have to understand too that it's not going to be at first. They're going to be the driving force for what's to come. So all the promises and everything and all the things that the D1 schools have and the luxuries and everything that they bring is good, right? But when you go to a HBCU, you kind of like changing the culture. So just by you coming to that school now, that HBCU is now will be on a pedestal that has never been on before. Now the school will bring in more revenue, and now that will be able to bring in more athletes because now the school is bringing in more money. So now it can be not necessarily in competition with the other schools, but it can compete with the other schools now because they have the money that the other schools may have. Because you got to think, what if somebody like LeBron went to a D1 school, right? Right? If you would have went to a college, think about how much money that's going to bring in. That's the same thing with the kids that go to schools 1 year and go to the NBA. That's how much revenue that they're bringing in. Like Zion Williamson, he went
Yeah.
to Duke. Like he can't get paid for none of the stuff that they had on his jersey at the game. They
Yep.
had on #1 jersey, but
Yep.
he can't get compensated for that. Come on. Like I think it's a little corrupt. It's a little corrupt.
It really is. It really is. And I have to say that I am very happy and satisfied that my son went to HBCU because my daughter, when she first went to college, she went to a PWI on a track scholarship. And
Mm-hmm.
what she found is that there were times in class, like she would send me a video, only black girl in the class or something like this and that. And so what was weird about that was that all the athletes were just in that capacity. The
Mm-hmm.
student government, the Miss whoever, the Mr. whoever, The other club presidents did not look like her. So that's what I love about my son's school. He going to Savannah State. Miss Savannah State is amazing. All her accolades, Mr. Savannah State.
My best friend went to Savannah State.
Did he? Okay. Yeah, all the culture and seeing people that look like you in other capacities, not just being an athlete, like everywhere, the media and this, all the different things that they have on camp. So I like that he can see like himself in other facets besides just athlete. So I was very proud.
Yeah, I would be proud.
What do you think about? Yes, I know. Look, we're a senior this year. So what do you think? Would it be so bad to have a spring football season?
I think, well, I mean, I got a lot of theories, but I mean, it depends. It depends on how you play it. It depends on how you play it, just because if you do a spring football season, then what about the fall? Are you gonna keep doing seasons in the spring, or do you do a shortened season, let them rest, and then go back in the fall? Now I can see that happening, which I don't think it would be too bad, because it kind of like gets them back to football. And if the COVID-19 thing is not, if it's kind of like, went away and it's not as bad as it is right now, then I feel like it's okay, because now you getting back to football, and you getting back to doing what you wanted to do and been training to do for a while. So I think it would be all right, just long as the guidelines and everything are correct, and they're doing everything right, and they're making sure the safety of the players is the first. Then I think it's okay.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I've been looking at. I'm like, so how they doing? How are we getting tested?
Right.
I be wanting to know too much information. My son's just like, I'm just going, Mom. I'm just gonna be fine. And I'm like, okay. So what, because you've been to college, you played football in college. What would you tell an incoming freshman, like on and off the field? What can you tell them, especially with this climate? And I guess, and I want to say this too, from a Black man's standpoint, because a lot of student athletes that play football are Black, and they could relate to you. What can you tell maybe an incoming freshman with everything going on and off the field mentally? Because like, to me, this is a lot.
You saying like with COVID, or like?
Yeah, with the COVID. I mean, and just football period and people don't understand it, because my son has played for so long. Like, there is a mental aspect to it besides just the physical part, but like mentally, the camaraderie, the relationship with the coaches, like everything. It really it's a big puzzle that comes together.
Well, I mean, when 80% of football is mental, 20% is physical. First of all, you have to believe that you can play and that you can do it. Because if you don't believe in within yourself, then you can't do it. With me, I was one of those guys that didn't necessarily believe in myself all the time, but God always placed people in my life that pushed me and believed in me, right? And He pushed, my coaches, everybody pushed me to be better. But with everything going on with incoming freshmen, especially just, let's talk about off the field first. I think, because I don't know, would they be doing class like online?
Well, what my son said that they're doing, and obviously all schools are going to be different, but what Savannah State is going to do is they're going to go in the fall. They're going to do everything on camp. And then after Thanksgiving break, they'll be back to the online thing, depending on if they end up doing a spring season. So if they're there in the fall, they're going to be training, working out as they would. But then on their schedule, I know 2 people already have dropped off and saying that they're not going to have a season. And then they were in the works. And I don't know at the time of this release of this episode if it'd be finalized, but they're talking about playing independent. So,
yeah, I would say, and really, especially in this climate, like mentally, really, really hone in on your craft and focus on your school. Because at the end of the day, football doesn't last forever. And everybody's dream is to make it to the NFL and you want to further your career. But I feel like, this is so cliche and you hear it all the time, but, getting your schoolwork and making sure that that is the first priority is important because it would allow you have that straight, it'll allow you to succeed more on the field because that's one less thing you have to worry about. And you talked about the whole mental aspect of it too as well. With football, people don't realize like all the stuff that we deal with as far as before the game, wanting to make a team, wanting to be a starter, wanting the coach to like you, wanting to just be in a place where you're playing really good football, and not everybody gets that opportunity. Some players get overlooked. And it's not about their ability. It's just about the situation that is happening right at that time. And some players don't know how to sift through that because they've been playing football all their life, and everything that they've been doing has been good thus far. And I kind of went through that later in life. I went through that playing in the NFL, being with all these top players. I'm with the best of the best, and I didn't have that coach to push me anymore. Now it was time to push myself. And what I found out was that it started from my childhood, me not really feeling like that I ever was good enough because my dad was so hard on me growing up. And it was a breakdown, 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 and never building me up. So even when I was doing good, I never really seen myself doing good because I always felt like it was more that I had to do. Like, so as far as parents, man, too, like I would say, really, you know, be hard on your kids, but at the same time, like you got to reassure them too. And, always pick them up and not, put them down because mentally, when you get in a football game, it can carry over like to your sport, and you can have anxiety. My anxiety ended up turning into depression when I was in the NFL, and I really didn't know what it was at all. I didn't know. Like nobody in my family knew what anxiety was. They didn't even know that was a thing, and I had been dealing with it my whole life, but it had just been swept under the rug because we really didn't know. And so once I got to the league, it kind of like started to take a toll on me each and every year, and it got worse and worse. Then I started handicapping myself on the field because I really didn't feel like I can do it. I really felt like I was in a place where I wanted to like get rid of myself. I wanted to kill myself, and you never really want to get to that point, right? I got to that point, and by the grace of God, I'm still here, and I'm able to talk about it now and talk to you about it. So, man, that mental aspect of football and just your kids and how you see it, it's really important. Very, very, very important.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up because it's very important that us parents see it from that aspect. We're rah, rah, rah. And then, I mean, you put the perfect scenario in high school, you're balling. Like
Right,
you're the top in your county, you're all district, you're getting all these accolades. Then you get to college, you're back on the bottom totem pole and you're
right.
like, who are you?
Because
And then
everybody
you
is good.
sort of
Everybody is good. Hmm.
build yourself all the way back over again. And it takes so much support. Like it takes everybody, everybody
Right,
in the family to support. Like that's what I'm saying. Like not having fans there. Like even if my son and them are playing, the University of Florida,
right,
Miami, we know what the game gonna be like. But
right.
we there, we cheer, we go. So he still, gives his best,
Hmm.
even though we know the odds,
Right.
and we're being realistic. So it is very much a mental aspect. And how did you deal with your anxiety? Because even like you saying that, you didn't know it was a thing. And I used to be that kind of person that be like, is anxiety really real? Like until there have been times where I've been anxious about something and it was more than just nervous. I'm trying to do something new. It was just like I was scared, you know.
Right,
So
right.
how
Um,
did you deal with that?
I didn't. I didn't
Mm,
deal with anxiety for a long time. It wasn't until was it 2020? It wasn't until 2018 till I started to deal with it, till I actually was about to end my life. And then I had to walk away from the game in
wow.
order to deal with what I was going through, right? So my anxiety basically, um, I dealt with it my whole life. I used to have anxiety attacks in my sleep. I used to
Mm,
have just the whole it's like a whole realm of different like anxieties, and I probably had like three or four different ones. But I had it all. It didn't change into depression until my fifth year, or no, my third year in the NFL, and I just dealt with it. I really didn't address that, but I honestly believe that where anxiety comes from, and where we feel that anxiety is, it's passed down to us from, it's generational. And our ancestors and our family went through so much, and they weren't able to talk about it, and that was bred down to us because we don't talk about a lot of things, and we're just taught to like just deal with it, because guess what, as a black person you have to do it twice as much than the next person. So you're taught like to be strong. Being strong is you being courageous, but really at the end of the day, you speaking up, you speaking out, you being vulnerable is really being courageous. So you can help save like other people that are dealing with that. So I would say, man, I didn't address it at first, and I was just playing football and just dealing with it. And I can't tell you, like, God, he had his hand on me the whole time, and it got to a point where I was about to do something that really was going to affect my family, going to affect me, going to affect everybody, and God still had his hand on me. And that's why I'm like I'm trying to be a speaker. I'm trying to talk more about mental health so I can really help some guys. And the other day when I was speaking, a guy DM'd me and was like, "Man, you helped save my life." So now that's why I know this is my purpose. It's my purpose to speak up and speak out and be a mental health advocate.
Yeah, I definitely love that. I think it's dope because, us moms, we're going to be there. Us moms, aunties, sisters, mothers, we're going to be there.
Right.
We're going to be encouraging. We're going to do that. But when they see another man say it, it's a whole nother aspect. It's a whole nother level of love that y'all can show to say, you know what, man, this is not weakness. This is really strong saying that, yo, I got
Yeah.
a problem. I'm dealing with something because men just don't do that and they've been groomed that way.
Right.
And like you said, so I'm glad that we're breaking the stigma. Even us talking about it here today, somebody can listen to this and be like, man,
Right.
Mark is going through this.
If it's just one person,
That's it. That's it.
man.
So I think that's very dope. And I think that's courageous of you to just, take the mask off. I mean, we all need
Right.
to do it. And then once the mask is off, you're free. You don't have to hide behind anything. So I think that's awesome that you're doing that. And I can't wait to all the great things, especially with this world open back up so we can see more of you.
You
But this,
will.
yeah, this is what I like to ask different guests is because I have a book club and
Mhm.
especially guys, I want to know what are you reading? What's your favorite book?
I know I was reading Jay's book, which was you call it King. And it was just, it was his book was just about, um, like he had guidelines and steps, for us as far as like us being a king and us knowing who we are. And, he was saying that the greatest thing in life is being born and knowing why you were born.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just realized, like I was telling you before, that I found out like what my purpose was when that kid told me that I saved his life. And when I found out, when you find your purpose, I mean, that's cool. And another book is, it's called No Excuses too.
Okay.
And I'm having a brain fart right now who wrote it, but I wish I had the book in front of me. But that's another book that is just like a lot of times, like we deal with these traumas, we deal with a lot of things that we might not know like why we're dealing with them. But then when you get to the root of the problem, you actually go speak to a therapist. You start to spill out a lot of the stuff that you've seen, a lot of the stuff that you had maybe been feeling. You start to figure out like a lot of this stuff, you know, it's not your fault. It was just passed down to you. And like the book No Excuses really is talking about within yourself, like you're great. You are great, and you can't make any excuses for what was passed down to you. But you can change the the things that you might be going through, right? You can change that. Like you can say, you know what? Like I understand that this was in my family and it was passed down to me, but you can stop it here. You can stop the generational curse right here. And I truly believe in that. I truly believe that, we have the power to, with God, we have the power to stop any generational curse that was passed down to us.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. I would definitely make sure. And no excuses. That's one of my 2020 hashtags. I'm like, ain't no excuses. COVID,
Right.
so recreate something, find another way.
Right. Right.
Do
Because now God is he's forcing us to sit down and figure some stuff out now.
Yeah, for
So
sure. And you have time, so make time for it. So look,
yeah.
like you said earlier, you said that, playing football at 5 years old. When did you realize that your dream of going to the NFL was gonna come true? When did you realize that?
Oh, that is a great question. Um, I didn't even think about the NFL until uh oh, earpiece dropped, sorry. But I didn't think about the NFL until okay, in 2012, we played Florida in the Sugar Bowl. And I was playing with Louisville, and I had a really good game in front of like everybody. Like we was playing on ABC, and I had like 2.5 sacks. I did really well. But after that, 2 months later, uh, an insurance company came to me and offered me like $1.5 million to sign an insurance policy. And they go off, this insurance policy goes off of what round you're projected to be drafted. So that's when I knew, like, oh snap! Like my coach came to me and was like, "Yeah, man, you could have left this year, right?
Mm,
Because I was projected like third to fifth round, like going into my senior year.
okay.
So when they came and said that to me, that's when the light bulb clicked. Like, and my coach was like, "Yeah, man, you should sign that because if you get hurt, you get that money." Right? And
Mhm.
you sign the insurance policy. So my coach ended up coming to me and was like, well, if you get 10 and a half, if you get 10 plus sacks, you'll go first round. I'm like, dang, I called my dad like, hey, dad, my dad, me and my dad have an awkward relationship. Like, even though he
Okay.
was like hard on me, I still always wanted to like make him proud. Like I'm still like that today. Like I just be wanting to make him proud. It's just that's just how it is. And sometimes we've had that conversation and we've talked and stuff like that. So it's better now. But he was the first person I called. Then I called my mom, and I'm like, man, if I get 10 sacks, like I could really take my game to a whole another level, and I could really play in the NFL. So, like after that, that's when I really like realized, like, okay, this NFL thing, this dream that I always had since I was 5. But I think the key thing was I never pressed it. I never pressed it before then. I just played. And yeah, it was once I figured that out, I was like, oh, I'm going harder. I'm going even harder.
That's
So
good. And see that, and that's good that you came to that realization and that it came to pass. So that was really dope. So let me ask you this then. So you get to the NFL, you said you were dealing with anxiety. Anxiety turned to depression. So how do you think we can bring that vulnerability back to, how can we bring vulnerability back into a masculine situation? How can we do that? Because the whole framework of it is so masculine. I mean, you get hurt, you suck it up. There was a time my son, I can't remember what happened. Something, I can't remember the situation, but his shoulder was out of place and his
mhm.
arm was just like
Mm,
loose, hanging down. And they had to put it back in play.
yeah,
And we're all looking, and the doctor has it, and I mean, like, I'm like, what? I mean, he's walking with it and it's down. And so yeah, the 1, 2, 3, and they pop it back in. Like, just seeing that, I was shook. That was probably one of the top 3 moments that I just
mm,
was taken back. So how do we bring back a little bit of how can we insert vulnerability into this masculine framework of the NFL? I mean, and not even the NFL. I'm just saying men in sports, men in life, because
yeah,
that can trickle over to after you're playing sports. Maybe you get a bad grade or somebody breaks up with you and you don't deal with the
right.
situation to be able to get with it. What are your suggestions?
Man, that's a great question. I think as far as like, masculinity in the sport, I think uh well, first you have to have people that have actually been through something, and that because you don't have a lot of guys that speak up or be vulnerable,
Yeah.
and say what they're going through. So it starts with people like me going into a building, um, speaking about certain things to allow not necessarily everybody, but hopefully that you're touching a few of them, for them to be able to speak. And the same thing goes with the coaches, because a lot of coaches, they could be hard on the guys, right? They can make you feel like injury is, because you got to remember, injury is a part of the game.
Yeah.
But also, coaches can't make you feel like you ain't supposed to be hurt. You all right, right? Um, and sometimes we're so mentally strong. Like, not all of us are mentally strong, but a lot of us are more mentally stronger than we think. Because guess what? Your son, that's a prime example. Like, his arm was hanging out and he popped it back in just to go back in the game, right? But if he would have said, "Nah, I can't do it," would the coach would have looked down upon him because he would have said like, "Nah, coach, but it shouldn't really, he shouldn't have to feel like, only if he wants to, if he really wants to, in his mind, like, you know what, I love my teammates, I love my coaches, you know what, I'm gonna pop it back in, right? But if he was at a point where, like, look, I'm drained, like, I need to go see a doctor, there's nothing wrong with that. You can't, because some coaches, I mean, they could be really, you know, I don't know, because a lot of coaches, I would say, might not have made it to that level, and they're coaching at that level. So they tend to kind of like coach a little bit harder, because they might see something in a player that they, try to do themselves, and be harder on a player. But there's nothing wrong with, if you have something wrong with you, if then that's the same thing that goes with mental health. Like they'll be like, ain't nothing wrong with you. You're good. You all right. Like shake it off. Like stop being you know,
Yes. Oh my God. I didn't know there were so many bad words in football.
oh man, you if you
I
if
never
we ever get
knew.
mic'd up like for real, you hear all the words that
Oh my
goes on during the
goodness.
game.
I
You'll
didn't,
hear
I didn't
you'll hear a
find
lot of
out.
ends. You'll hear some of the white guys say the end too, which is not
For
good.
real?
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. It's in football. They don't want to believe it, but I'm gonna say it. I don't care.
Wait a minute. Hold up now. We might have to hold another whole nother podcast. We didn't create.
It happens. It
Wow.
happens.
Do they say it as a term of endearment, like they're trying to be
No,
cool, or they say it in a
mm-mm.
mm,
It's what they were raised on, what they were brought up on.
mm.
It comes out. It comes out sooner or later. That real what you really about really it'll show itself.
That's crazy. That's crazy for me to hear that. Mm-mm-mm.
I mean, I've been
So,
called the N word on social media too, though.
but see, these screen thugs though pull up. Screen thugs. I can't appreciate people that talk and do all that in the comments under people's posts. I don't. I can't do that because if we pull up, it ain't gonna be the same. They gon' so I don't know. How do you
Yeah.
deal with that? I mean, being at Louisville, did you have to deal with anything like that?
No, actually, Louisville was really good with us as far as players, but I did deal with it when I got to Philly
Mm,
because I wasn't. I got drafted in the first round. I wasn't supposed to be that pick. They was like, "Well, who the f- is that?" Like they was in my comments. If I didn't play well, I had a guy that wrote the N word like 10 times going down my comments, and then
mm,
put the ER at the end. Went down my comments. And at the time, I wasn't mentally strong at the time. Like I used to read into all that stuff and a lot of that stuff, allowed me to have anxiety because now I'm not playing for me anymore. Like I'm playing for um, other people. I'm trying to prove the fans wrong. I'm trying to prove the coaches wrong. I'm trying to prove everybody wrong that kind of like written me off. But really at the end of the day, I lost sight of why I played and why I had fun to play, right? I was playing because I love the game, and it didn't matter about anybody else. That's when I was having the most fun. But I made it about everything else. And it's just like Kobe said. Like I will always say this. It's just like Kobe said. When he was going through the whole thing, the allegations with him, it
mhm,
was like when he was on a court, it was like they were just like bombarding him with stuff, like trying to get him off task, trying to get him off his game, and that's how exactly how I felt, and it was working from their aspect, right? Because I started to believe that stuff. I started to be like questioning myself, like, damn, am I supposed to be here? Like, Lord, like, why am I going through this? Like, why can't I just catch a break? Like. And all of that went into my anxiety and it turning into depression. And, and it all, like I said, it stemmed from like when I was a young child and I just never addressed it.
yeah, I mean, and that's oh my gosh, you said so much there. I mean, that's the mental aspect. You're the person that's writing a post. All they have to do is show up at the game, buy a ticket, show up at the game, cheer. Yeah,
Right.
whatever else. You have to deal with that person times however many people are in that stadium. You have to deal
Yep.
with the coach. You have to deal with the players. So it's like these are weights that are stacked on y'all that nobody is not thinking of that aspect. You know what I mean? And that's crazy. And
Right.
people want you to perform at a high level every day in and day out. And that doesn't and that's just one aspect. That's one day that they see you. They don't see you all week at practice,
Nope.
conditioning, at the trainer, at the
Right. Right.
Wherever, they don't know if you ate this week. College athletes, like we talked about earlier, they may you know, that's one thing I make
Yeah.
sure my son eats. Like, have you ate?
Yeah.
The calf was closed. Okay, go get, because
Exactly.
nobody's
Exactly.
even thinking about, they're thinking about Saturday, Sunday, obviously Monday with the NFL, but
Monday night. Yeah. Yeah. Monday night football.
that's crazy. And people don't have that aspect. So that's why I definitely wanted to have you on to talk about, you know, more about this whole mental aspect of the sport, because we don't get to see.
Rocks on the side, and I'm contemplating on, tipping my car over. And right when I started to tip my car over, my wife calls me, and I
Wow.
kind of like jump back, like, you know, and we talk every morning before I go to the facility, and she's talking to me. She knows something is going on, but she can't like put her finger on it. She asking me, "You good? You ready for the day?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." And I'm trying to hurry up and get off the phone with her so I can proceed to do what I want to do. And so I get off the phone with her and I start to, drift my car again, right? And her mother calls me. Then I, jump back again, right? And by the time she calls me and I'm talking to her, I'm at the bottom of the hill, and
Wow.
that was nobody but God. And after that, I was like, I'm done. I'm done with football. Like this, I am finished. Like, and I end up not being done, but at that moment, I was like, my health is way more important because guess what? I was about to kill myself. My wife is pregnant right now. And the thing about me and my daughter's bond right now, like for her not to be able to share that with her father, like her growing up without a father, like you never want that. So it is my duty and my purpose to, help all men, women, because women go through the same things too as well, to help them, like bring them along. And once I went to therapy and started to see like everything that I was dealing with and why I was dealing with it, then I really got clarity of who I was and who I was meant to be. So I ended up going back to football. I ended up playing that same year. I seen my daughter born. It was like the best thing ever. And then after I seen my daughter born, I was like, you know what? I'm about to start working out. I'm about to get ready and finish the season off. So I ended up signing with the Redskins, and I finished the season off in 2018. So that's kind of like how I got ready for like the next chapter because I didn't know exactly what my purpose was, but I knew that it was meant for me to help other people and change their lives. And if I could do it through speaking and mentoring, that's like where I found like, my happiness at.
And that's dope. And before I let you go, I definitely want you to talk about your foundation, because all that happened since 5 years old, all the way through college, through the NFL until now, led up to you creating your own foundation. So tell us a little bit about that.
So my foundation is called the Circle of M Foundation, and it's built around mental health and kind of like what I just told you, just building like young men and women, trying to inspire, doing workshops, like just building them from the ground up, allowing them to have a face, a black face that can relate to them in a way that they don't feel like they can't be vulnerable or feel like they can't talk. Because when you see somebody actually that looks like you and that speaks, you're like, dang, man, I was going through that. Or I did go through that. Right. Or, I was just talking to one of my old teammates the other day on live. And he was like, man, I'm just a guy that I was built not to speak about anything and say it. But I realized I was killing myself within myself, and that's pretty much my foundation in a nutshell. It's a circle of M. It's me, but I have a circle with everything that I'm trying to do, which is really just based around mental health.
Yeah, and I think that's so dope. I hope that more gentlemen, guys, kings get into it because it is very beneficial. I mean, it's inspirational for me as a mom, auntie, a sister,
Hmm.
a daughter to see that because we can only take them so far. You know what I'm saying? And where we can't, other guys, y'all can step in and fill in those gaps. And so I think that's awesome what you're doing. And I appreciate your time being on here, talking with us, and tell everyone where they can follow you and if they want to help contribute towards your foundation, how they can do that.
Well, so Instagram, my Instagram is moneymart91, MONEYMARC 91. My Twitter is Marcus Smith the second. And if you want to donate or anything, I have a website. It's called marcussmith2nd.com. It's on my Instagram. You'll see it in my bio. But that's just really just me in a nutshell. I love speaking and talking. I'm glad that you had me on. I could go for hours just talking about my life in general. So, excuse me on rambling off.
No, you were an excellent guest. I appreciate your time and attention to it because it is very needed. When people see more of us, people that look like them speaking about this, it's going to create a bonfire. And I think even with this COVID situation, a lot of things have happened, but I think a lot of great things have happened also. People being able
Right.
to open up, like you're 5 at 5, like to be able to do that. Maybe when you were when the world was open, you may not have had the time to do that. So I
Nope.
think that it's a great time for thought leaders to be able to get in there and help people because this is the time for you to get help, regroup. When the world opens or whatever the situation is, you'll be prepared for it. You won't be
Right.
dealing with those mental issues, anxiety. You'll have the tools you need to re-enter society, whatever
Right.
that new looks like. So
Yep.
I think it's
You said
awesome
it.
what you're doing. So keep it going. I appreciate you for being on the show today.
Oh man, thank you. Thank you for having me.